Hi, my name's Marissa. I'm one of the co-hosts of Booktalks podcast, and this is Reading with Riss. Today we're going to go through my April reading wrap-up, so if you want to see the 9 books I read in April, stay tuned. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. This is just a reading wrap-up, so I'll just be giving kind of my general thoughts and my rating. Several of the books featured today are also featured on Booktalks podcast, so I kind of get to give you a sneak peek of what we did for season 4. So stick around. We have some really good books, and I'm going to go in order that I read them. And the first book I read this month is the second book in that series, Crown of Midnight. We actually read Throne of Glass about a year ago for Booktalks podcast season 2 or 3, I think. I can't remember. But I'll link that below if you want to check it out. We then did Crown of Midnight for Booktalks podcast season 4, episode 1. Kayla is keeping me on track with this series. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was even better than the first book in the series, Throne of Glass. If you haven't read Throne of Glass and you're a big fan of Harry Potter, any Sarah J. Maas books, you know, Crescent City, ACOTAR, Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, anything like that, I highly recommend Throne of Glass. It is young adult fantasy, and it's just a really good fantasy series. Really well thought out from everything I've heard. Going back to my roots, because I am in fact the thriller queen over at Booktalks podcast, I of course had to read a thriller. This is Before She Knew Him by Peter Swanson. This was my first Peter Swanson book. My jaw hit the floor. Did not see the twist coming. Had to give it 5 stars, which I know, 2 books in a row, 5 stars. Marissa, are you a pushover? Do you just give every book 5 stars? No, I don't. I do not give every book 5 stars. In fact, I'm usually a pretty harsh critique of books. 5 stars is not the norm, but I did give this 5 stars because my jaw literally hit the floor. Did not see it coming. This is a must read in my opinion if you're into thriller books. Next up, in the category of romance, we read this for Booktalks podcast season 4, episode 2, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, or Jimenez. I never know how to pronounce it. Loved this book. I don't like romance. I'm just gonna put that out there. It is not my favorite genre, but this book was so good, and I'm not just saying that because we received this early release copy. I mean it. This book is about a 37-year-old woman trying to find her place in the world, meeting a guy who doesn't quite fit in, and I just think it's a really, really great romance. So if you're into romance and you haven't read this yet, I would read it today. 5 out of 5 recommend. Okay, that was 3 5 out of 5 stars in a row. Don't hate me, but I have a 4th, and that is 5 out of 5 stars. It's The Murder Rule by Dervla McTiernan. We also did this for Booktalks podcast season 4, episode 4, I believe. When I release my April wrap-up, I'm not sure if this will be out yet because we're releasing it the week of the book's release, which is in May. So we may or may not have released that episode, but we actually interviewed Dervla McTiernan. So again, I did not give this 5 stars just because we had an early release copy or we had a connection to the author. I really liked this. This is a thriller suspense, but it gives very much Elle Woods vibes. Basically, the story is about a girl who goes back to law school, or she's in law school, and she switches to a different college, and she joins the Innocence Project, but there's a twist. She doesn't want the guy they're representing to actually go free. She wants to bury him. The next book I don't actually have a copy of, but it's very popular on Bookstagram and BookTok and others. However, it's a romance, and as I said already, I'm not really into romance. It is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I actually gave this 3.7 out of 5 stars, and for me, I felt like that was being generous. That was taking into account the fact that I don't like romance. Please don't cancel me. This book was about a guy named Fox and a girl, I can't remember her name, but they are clearly supposed to be together and they clearly want to be together, and they just keep making up excuses for why they shouldn't be together. I was bored with it, all the wishy-washy back and forth. He wanted her, he didn't want her. She wanted him, she didn't want him. And I just got bored with it personally. Next up, another book I do not physically possess, The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I felt the ending was highly convoluted, and I am going to be posting a review of this on my channel a little later. I'll be doing a spoiler-free and a spoiler review because I'd really like to discuss the ending with you guys. I'm not super satisfied by it. Like, I get what Ruth Ware was trying to do, but I personally just wasn't a fan. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because I was completely captivated, and the only thing I didn't like about it was the ending. A really good thriller, and not the last Ruth Ware book I read this month. We're back to a book I physically own. This is An Honest Lie by Tarryn Fisher. Again, I received an early release copy for Booktalks podcast season 4 episode 3. I'll try and link that below. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars, and let me tell you why. Now, I did post an entire review video of this, which I'll link below because I had lots of thoughts on it, but essentially I gave it a lower rating because I didn't jive with the writing style. It felt a little more high school, maybe even middle school to me, and I'm just used to a higher reading level. Nothing wrong with the reading level that this one is at. I just didn't like the rhythm and flow of the book. So do I recommend this? Yes, if you're into cult books, but it's not actually marketed as a cult book. Nothing on the back signifies there's anything about a cult. So just keep that in mind if you pick this up and cults scare you, because this is entirely about a cult. Don't hate me, but we are back to a 5-star rating. I loved this book. It is Set on You by Amy Lea. Wow. Wow. Again, we did this one for Booktalks podcast season 4. I believe it's gonna be episode 3, 4, 5. I don't remember. I will have to link it below. This comes out May 10th, so we probably won't have posted the Booktalks podcast episode on this yet, but I will link it below once we do. I love this book. I cannot tell you enough. Rom-com, romance. I'm not a romance person. This was so good. This is about a curvy fitness influencer who finds her soulmate in the gym, and it's just a really good story. A really good enemies to lovers, to friends to lovers, to slow, like there's kind of an instant connection and then it's a slow burn. It just has everything you could want in a romance. And number 9, I promised you one more Ruth Ware book. This is One by One by Ruth Ware. 5 out of 5. I know I said I don't give too many 5 out of 5s, but this month's reads were just so good. One by One is about a group of people who go to this skiing resort. I think they call it a chalet. They go to this skiing chalet and they're trying to decide between selling their company for millions and millions of dollars or taking their company further and making it go public. The problem is they are split almost nearly 50-50, and there is one shareholder who has the swing vote. So when things start going wrong and people start disappearing one by one, we have to figure out, is it related to the company buyout? Is it related to that shareholder? Does it have to do with the people hosting the skiing chalet events? Like, what is going on? It's really good. Kept me very captivated. I did not anticipate the kind of aha moment. Did not see it coming. I always kind of get bamboozled by these books, but I really loved it. So 5 out of 5 stars for me. Again, I don't normally give so many 5 out of 5s, but I love this one, and I am going to be reading more Ruth Ware in the future. Okay, that concludes my April reading wrap up. Read a lot this month. Was really happy with how many books I read, especially considering a year or 2 ago, I was reading 0, maybe half a book a month. So I've come a long way. Booktalks podcast has helped me so much in that because it keeps me reading for the podcast, but also we pick enjoyable books so I don't hate it. It's not a chore. I will link all the podcast episodes below when they come out because some may not be out yet, but I'll link them below. You can follow me at Booktalks Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I will be doing a May reading wrap up next month, and just as a teaser, I'm currently reading House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, definitely stick around. Hit the bell notification so you'll get that notification once I post the video. And thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it was great talking to you.